Well, I'm sure it probably doesn't feel like it because of how long your week, I'm sure, has been, but we are inching closer and closer to the 48-hour countdown to divisional round weekend. And I guess that's not entirely true. What I mean by that is the final of 4 games that will take place this weekend to, of course, celebrate divisional round weekend. We're down to 8 teams across the NFL, and carrying up the back end of it is probably not probably the game of the weekend, and that is Buffalo and Baltimore. It's a 6:30 kickoff in Orchard Park, Western New York. I'll be leaving tomorrow morning at the crack of dawn with Be More Around Town. There are still opportunities to take a day trip experience with Be More Around Town. You can find out more information, or you can do the tailgate only package if you're up in central New York, Western New York, upstate New York, whatever, and you want to come in for the day. There are also tailgate options available to you as well. All that can be found at bemorearoundtown.com. So what a week it was. Today is brought to you by our friends and my friends. Sometimes I forget I'm not on the vault. Can you tell it's late afternoon Friday and it's been one heck of a week of around-the-clock work? This live stream is brought to you by my friends at Preston Automotive Group. We've got a number of things to discuss before we kind of shift gears to the weekend, and for me, shift gears to traveling up north to Western New York. And everything has to do with Zay Flowers and where his status is and where this whole plot twist, how this plot twist came to be, that hit the timelines just after 2 o'clock Eastern earlier this afternoon. I'll also give you a few matchups to watch. I'll also give you a few keys to the game. And if you missed it during our live stream on the Ravens lunch hour earlier today, I will also give you my prediction. Without further ado, let me share with you what the Ravens shared with all of their social networks just after 2 o'clock Eastern. And of course, it had to do with Zay Flowers, Zay, who has not practiced over the last 6 sessions, was seen doing some ladder drills, some lateral quickness. This is not considered part of today's traditional practice. So he was off to the side of the team. And if you really kind of zoom in and focus on that right leg, you'll notice he does wear a knee brace. So again, by the layman's eye, right, the casual eye, it certainly seems like Zay is moving fine. Doesn't appear to be favoring any side as he goes through these drills. But to be clear, no pads, and it's just a drill off to the side, probably not going 100%. With that said, Zay's impact and Zay's status obviously means a lot for Baltimore's offense. The plot twist was that, which over the last couple hours certainly begged the question, is Zay going to give this thing a go? The injury report doesn't beg any question. The injury report tells you exactly what it says there underneath the game status label, and he is listed as doubtful. Again, Zay has not practiced since sustaining that knee injury in the regular season finale against Cleveland. And now, as a result, the Ravens have listed him as doubtful. I'm sure you're wondering, all right, Bobby, well, what do you make of the video then being released? And to be honest with you, it would not surprise me if that is solely gamemanship. John Harbaugh and the Ravens, when you get to this round, is looking to gain any edge they possibly can. And maybe, just maybe, that was a gamemanship thing. Now, it came 2 hours prior to this injury report being released. And while there's always the chance of his status being upgraded throughout the weekend, Zay Flowers, as of Friday afternoon and about 25 minutes ago, has officially been listed as doubtful for the divisional round. What will life look like without Zay? Well, they certainly got it done last weekend in the wild card game against Pittsburgh. Contributions from pass catchers all over the field. And of course, well over 250 rushing yards, 299 to be exact. And while part of me wants to just entirely flush that week 4 game, not because of the end result between the Ravens and Bills, but because of how much these two teams have changed and evolved since. One thing I think you can take and absolutely hang your hat on is that Zay Flowers didn't have much of an impact in that game. Matter of fact, he finished with just one catch for 10 yards on 2 targets. Now, that's the box score reading way of evaluating. Oh, man, he must not have been that big of an impact. He must have been a non-factor that night. But I think where I want to give some pause and caution you when viewing this, here's why. Even when Zay is not directly involved in the football game, his impact, the eye candy that his sheer presence alone forces defensive coordinators to account for, it's hard to measure that. The misdirection, the jet sweep stuff. Again, his explosiveness, his speed, his yak ability, the vertical threat that he is in the screen game. Think about the productivity that he's chipped in to the screen game along with Justice Hill. All of that is really hard to measure. So ultimately, that's one way of looking at it. But obviously, the Ravens are a better football team with Zay. And it looks like, barring something unforeseen entering this weekend, he will not be available. One more look at that Ravens production piece that they put out. A video of Zay working off to the side from the team's practice session earlier today, doing some lateral drills, some footwork, showing off that lateral quickness, showing off that burst, showing off that agility. And again, nothing to the layman's eye appears to be nagging him. He does have a knee brace on that right-hand side. And so perhaps they're just trying to be careful. They feel confident maybe internally that Zay will be good to go come AFC Championship weekend, but obviously you have to get there first. And so, in other words, what's the surprising plot twist? That the Ravens posted that video. Whether it be gamemanship, or maybe, just maybe, there's a chance that Zay goes into the weekend and has a chance at being upgraded to questionable, depending on how he's trending. But the reality is he is less than 2 weeks removed. I believe tomorrow will mark 2 weeks since he sustained that knee sprain in Baltimore's regular season finale to Cleveland. And that is where we stand 2 weeks later. In that week 4 game, the aforementioned Justice Hill, who's been a killer in Baltimore's screen game, had a game high 6 receptions for 78 yards and a touchdown. He was targeted 6 times. He caught all 6 balls. After that, Likely, Bateman, King Henry, Zay, and Nelly all each had at least 1 catch. The King had 3, all of which were in the backfield, if memory serves, or checkdowns, excuse me. And Nelly had 2. On Buffalo's side of things, Khalil Shakir, of course, had that long of 52, an unbelievable play made by Josh Allen, being flushed out of the pocket. And right before he stepped out of bounds, lofts it to the middle part of the field across his body. Khalil finished with 4 receptions for 62 yards. And again, that long of 52. Aside from those chunk plays, that chunk play, I should say, Keon Coleman had a reception for 24, and Dalton Kincaid had 1 for 25. So, look, if you're looking at specific playmakers that have the ability to work with Josh Allen when plays break down and they're in improv mode, it's those 3 players right there. Shakir, Coleman, and not to discount Kincaid, but I would put Amari Cooper in that trio before I would Dalton Kincaid. And of course, Amari hadn't yet joined the Bills since he was their acquisition at the trade deadline. back in November. And of course, the Ravens went in the direction of a wide receiver as well. You may have heard his name, especially in recent days. One Deontay Johnson didn't exactly work out well for Baltimore. Although they did just bring him back, maybe out of in spite, or maybe it was also gamemanship, trying to keep him from signing with another team this offseason. Or there could be some compensatory pick motivation there as well, given that the Ravens have that formula down to an absolute science. So, as I've mentioned all week, do I think the Ravens need Zay Flowers to get past the divisional round weekend? I don't. And I think they've proven that while Zay's presence is absolutely impactful and important, I don't think it's a necessity this upcoming weekend. I think Rashad Bateman continuing to stretch the field, continuing to be a reliable pass catcher and route runner is incredibly important. I think the emergence of Isaiah Likely in a cold weather game, being Lamar's security blanket alongside Mark Andrews, will be key. I think establishing the run from the jump just the way they did on that week 4 night under the primetime lights is paramount. I think Lamar protecting the football, as always, has to be at the top of mind. And most importantly, do not get behind the sticks. Do not allow yourself to become undisciplined in a do or die moment. I'm talking about Ronnie Stanley up front. It's going to be loud. It's going to be hostile in there. It's going to be rocking. Lamar may have to use some hard count. And so everybody has to be on one accord among the offensive linemen, tight ends that might be out there chipping, wide receivers on the outer edge, and of course, Lamar Jackson and his backfield. And to me, this is one of those games, while I don't believe that it'll shake out the way that it did in week 4 in terms of the margin of defeat if you're Buffalo, I do expect the Ravens to control the tempo, play savvy football on the road, and handle the elements. And the elements could get really gnarly. Wind chill expected to have the temperature down to a real feel of -3, -3. 65% chance of snow last time I checked. I see Rose Jr. in the live chat saying first drive, score 7. And that brings me back to something that I've been thinking about all season long, and what I really want to tip my cap to Todd Monken on, and that is how dominant they are, how methodical they are in scripted format off the top. These opening drives have really set the Ravens up nicely throughout their season and throughout this winning streak. They've ripped off 5 straight since losing to Philadelphia prior to their Week 14 bye, December 1st at home. They've played sound, fundamental football. And so if there's one concern going in, with the weather aside, being that there's so much unpredictability that comes along with Western New York January weather, for me, it'd be a couple things. I think they're unsettled right now, special teams wise. I don't fully trust Jordan Stout to put the Ravens in good field flipping position. And he hasn't been making consistent contact with his punts. That's something I'm going to be watching closely come Sunday night. Field position is everything. And it hasn't been good enough from Jordan in year 3. And I should say it hasn't been consistent enough. He's got the big leg. The dude's got a leg. But that's a concern of mine going in. I'm not going to call Justin Tucker a concern, but something to watch is the low amount of volume. And while he's been really, really good since the bye, and of course, since he's worked his way out of his slump, it's also been a small sample size. And so I want to see how Justin tries to find his groove back in the postseason if they so desperately need him and if drives aren't finished. Aside from that, I know the easy one and the guy who's been targeted a lot in a number of ways, both on the football field and, of course, off, is 21. I get it. Brandon Stevens is probably the low-hanging fruit. But honestly, I think Josh Allen at some point, just like Ed Oliver said about Lamar Jackson yesterday, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Lamar is going to get his. And I think the same could absolutely be said for Josh Allen. It's just a matter of, can you minimize when he's getting his? And if you're not familiar with the analogy that I'm referencing from Ed Oliver, listen to this. He's Buffalo Bills defensive tackle. Did not have a good night in week 4 when Derrick Henry and the Ravens ran all over his line up front.
It is to deal with a guy like Lamar where the play is never over. Kind of like Josh for that matter.
Our coach had a coach said something that really stuck with me, and he was like, he's like Kobe Bryant, and like how you can't necessarily stop Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant's gonna get his at some point, and that was a great analogy. Lamar's gonna get his at some point, and we know that, and everybody knows that, and everybody watching knows that. We just have to limit him, but he's gonna get his. We all know that. We all aware. We're not ignorant to the fact, but he is. Matt, our D-line coach, kind of made that analogy. He like Kobe, he gonna get his, So, he basically, what he said was he's a one-off player, basically kind of like Kobe, and Kobe's gonna get his. You can try to limit him, but at some point, Kobe's gonna get him.
So, look, I'm not calling Josh Allen Kobe. I'm not calling Josh Allen Lamar, but both of these players will get theirs at times. How will the Ravens respond? And how will they minimize Josh getting his? Only playoff quarterback matchup before the Super Bowl between top 2 in MVP voting, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. You got to go back to the 2013 AFC Championship. The only other time, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, 2 front-runner MVP candidates, expected to be top 2 when ballots are ultimately, well, ballots were due last week. It'll be announced the first week of February. But how will you minimize the blows? How will you minimize and withstand Josh getting his? Lamar will absolutely get his, and if it's not Lamar, it's going to be the king. Ravens finished the regular season as the top overall offense, the top overall rushing offense. They did so for over 187 yards per game on average this year. They were the 7th-ranked passing offense, 3rd in scoring, 3rd on 3rd down, 20th on 4th down, and 1st in the red zone. And that certainly brings me to red zone efficiency and the importance of how you play inside the 20s. To me, this game is going to be won and lost, obviously, as every game always is or isn't, in the trenches. But more so than that, it's punching in. Field goals will not win you unless there's just some sort of ridiculous snowstorm, knock on wood, or an insane weather night, which there is the chance of that happening. Unless that takes place, I just don't see how consistent field goals are going to win you this game. My score prediction that I'm going with is 30-24, and I'll tell you why in just a second. Live chat, I would love to hear and read your scores, so hit me with them. Buffalo's offense, certainly something to be reckoned with as well. The 10th overall group, 9th on the ground, 9th through the air, 2nd in scoring, 7th on 3rd down, 2nd on 4th, and 2nd in red zone. Incredible. Benjamin says 31-21, Ravens. Here's why I'm going 30-24. I know throughout the week I was sort of teasing this whole idea of a shootout. And I started to think about it. And I considered the elements. And I considered the temperature. I considered a number of factors. And I thought to myself, 30-24 in a game that I think the Ravens will feel like they're in control of and pull away late And while that final score will be indicative of a really close, kind of closely contested game, I expect the Ravens to control the time of possession, to plaster defensively to ensure that Josh Allen's escapability and mobility doesn't bite them in the butt the way that it did for a couple big completions, big explosive plays in week 4, albeit in a game that the Ravens thoroughly dominated in 35-10 to be exact. But you control the time of possession, you play clean football, it ends up becoming a game where you're built in such a way offensively that teams can't hang with you. And all of a sudden, points come at a premium. I think if you get the Bills on their heels early, this is a game that you can kind of take control of and sustain control of. And that's what I expect from the Ravens. Not to say that it's not going to be a game of runs, not to say that Buffalo won't get theirs. They're going to put up 24 points. And I think a lot of that is going to be due to, look, if the Ravens do what they've done all year, and you look, and this is why I brought these metrics up here, these rankings, they are going to stop the run. On average, this team lets up just a tad over 80 yards per game. You go back to week 4, guess what? 81 yards is what they allowed to Buffalo. James Cook had 39 on 9 carries. Josh Allen had 21 on 5. Ray Davis, who's in concussion protocol, had 11 on 7 carries. Curtis Samuel and Ty Johnson each chipped in with a carry as well. 81. That is exactly what Baltimore's average ended up becoming. And so if that's the case, and if that continues to be true, which I think it will be, that they'll stop the run, then all of a sudden, Zach Orr's secondary, Zach Orr's middle part of the defense has to hold up its end of the bargain. And I think history has shown that they will be susceptible to a couple big plays. And that's fine. But when will those plays happen? How will they respond to such plays? And will they allow it to be backbreaking? What kind of help and what kind of ground can Kyle Hamilton cover on the back end? What kind of hit sticks can Ardarius Washington put on ball carriers? Man, I loved what he had to say with Sherman this week. Richard Sherman, which was a cool moment for Ardarius, invited him on his podcast. And Richard, just like everybody else, wanted to talk about the weather. And AD was like, listen, I got my mind set on other things.
I, as a boy from Shreveport, Louisiana, going to get ready for this 8-degree weather. I mean, I know you've been in Baltimore long enough, but 8 degrees is 8 degrees.
I'm going to get ready for it. You know what I mean? I'm going to get ready for it. I'm going to be out there. We playing football. You know what I mean? So when I'm between those, I ain't thinking about how cold it is. When I get to the sideline, I'm like, okay, maybe a little cold out here. But when I'm out there on that field, hey, I ain't thinking about no weather, man. I'm thinking about making this play right now.
What an opportunity for the former undrafted rookie out of TCU. Big moment, first playoff game, if I'm not mistaken, that he will start. And speaking of starting, since week 11, that was the start point almost for Zach Orr's Ravens defense, who statistically have been nothing short of steady Eddie since week 11. They've allowed a combined, on average, 15.3 points per game, 264 yards per game flat, a 77.5 passer rating, and an opponent third down percentage of 31.4. Across the board, this to me is the group. It's been such a level of consistency on the offensive side of the ball this year that if there's one thing that I have a surefire confidence about, it's that I think what separates this team into the postseason between being a bona fide Super Bowl contender and not is this defense continuing to be what it's been for weeks now. You know what you're going to get offensively. They're putting up 30 points in their sleep, and I expect them to, again, barring something unforeseen weather-wise, I expect them to do exactly that, which is why I hit it 30-24. And I went a little conservative with the scoring-wise because of the potential of Western New York weather playing a factor. If that's the case, and if this offense continues to not be challenged by, again, methodically, consistently, almost routinely putting up 30 points, they're going to put themselves in this defense in a lot of positions to win games over the course of the next couple weeks. I see you guys got some other predictions in here. Leldon says 35-24 Ravens. Hit me with yours in the live chat. I'll read a few of them. Benjamin says, I got 31-21, but the Ravens go on a fourth quarter touchdown drive that seals the game. That's another thing to think about, too. For the first time now in the divisional round, just like they were last year, you got a second closer. Somebody who has absolutely thrived in the postseason, and that's number 22, who is coming in as healthy as he's ever been this late in the year. Rick Arnold writes 28-21 Ravens. Rose says 31-21. 18 Brian Huang says 24-21 Baltimore. T. Gibbons says 31-17 Ravens in a runaway. And he capped run. Well done. Chef Trez is already calling the hay in the barn for Jerry Sandusky, 35-17. Mike is pulling a Manny. Gives me a couple different ones. 27 or 24-13. Hey, Mike, which one is it? Put your ass on blast right now and get you up on the screen. 27 or 24-13. Which one is it? Unbelievable. Frank Duncan says 27-13. Holly, who won this week's homage giveaway. Congratulations, Holly. 24-17. GTG got to go. 27-17. Chris calling her shot. 35-14. Good stuff, guys. Gives me a chance to tell you about what we got coming up on Sunday. And for those of you who maybe missed the live stream during our lunch hour earlier today, we are pulling out all the stops coming up on Sunday night, regardless of win or loss. And courtesy of Preston Automotive Group, which is sponsoring this episode and certainly going to be a big part of what we're doing on Sunday night, we are giving away a Kyle Hamilton signed football. All you'll have to do, and maybe you can get out in front of it right now, is follow at Preston Automotive Group on Instagram. Now, what I mean by that is when I say all you have to do, that'll be on top of our usual deliverables as well, which is simply subscribing, liking the video, and leaving a super chat. And we will tell you, because this is probably the sweetest pot that we've ever done, we will have a baseline minimum in terms of super chats at $10. That'll be our baseline minimum. It'll be randomly selected at the end of our show. And so, again, you can get out in front of it and follow at Preston Automotive Group. And I just want to say thank you to them for the opportunity to do this giveaway, because far and away, that is unquestionably, I think, our most electric giveaway yet. And it kind of makes me want to think ahead here a little bit and in hopes of the Ravens advancing on. And if they do, how the hell are we going to one up a Kyle Hamilton signed football? Give me a couple ideas, because I want to one it up. Oh, we're definitely going to do a Manta Sleep giveaway next week. I know that. But how the hell am I going to one up Kyle Hamilton signed football? Crazier things have happened. When I get my mind going, you never know. Coach, great to see you. Give me your prediction, and please tell Mike to stop allowing you to influence him.
Hey, if he learns from the best, there's nothing. I mean, you learn from the best in your business, so you got to take the compliment over there.
What you got, bro?
No, I actually followed the recommendation of him, because here I have a belt. So I am ready.
Hey, give it one more second. Do that again, will you?
Oh, this?
Yeah, what are you doing over there? Oh, this is getting. This is. I'll tell you what. This has got dirty connotations written all over it. So thank you for that.
Hey, I'm just following the recommendation of Mike, because you see his type of defense. It's not always blitz. It's like calculated blitzes. So
All right, brother. Give us your prediction, and then I got to start packing for Buffalo. Hit me.
All right, my prediction. We're gonna belt to ass. It's belt
Belt
to ass.
to
I'm not
ass.
gonna say that we're not gonna get ours in a way if we don't start doing our stuff, but we're gonna win it. At least, if not by 3 points, it's gonna be a blowout like last time.
Wow. Okay. I sense a lot of that confidence around the flock fan base.
I think the reason for it is that last time we were in the playoffs, we never had a Henry, and we had O-line issues the whole year. We never had like Marquise and Manders were not catching balls.
Yep.
Pause. But yeah, it's like a very different team right now. So I think yes, we are confident that now we have playmakers. Now we can go all the way because now we know where we are.
Well, where we are earlier, just in case anybody may have missed it or is popping on late, the Ravens will likely, based on today's designation, be without Zay Flowers come game time. He's listed as doubtful. He hasn't practiced the last 6 sessions dating back to the regular season finale against Cleveland, where he believed to have suffered a knee sprain. So, barring something unforeseen and a potential upgrade for him status-wise in the next 24 plus hours, they're going to be without their wide receiver one. And honestly, as I've been saying for weeks, and I'll continue to say, they have never been more prepared for this moment entering January to be without their top target than they are right now. And I'll continue to say that.
Yeah. Hey, we can at least go heavy personnel. We can actually put who is it? Josh Jones, as our refrigerator with Pat Ricard, with Henry, and just push them.
Yeah.
So on that sense, it's like we can actually do the 13 runs like consecutively. If the Steelers that have a heavier line than the Bills couldn't stop it, now imagine what we're gonna do with linebacker type body O line. D line actually they have.
Yep. Well said, brother. I'll next chat with you when I'm out there in Western New York, heading up, I should say, really early tomorrow morning, and then we'll be live from Rec Room. For those of you, hey, by the way, for those of you who are going to be out there, please consider popping by Rec Room tomorrow night. I'll be pregame live streaming from that, like pregame, 24 hours in advance, pregame live streaming, and then the next day at Danny's South, which is actually in Orchard Park. So, going to be an awesome weekend, brother. Great to hear from you.
I got a one up for the bowl. Even though they saying Lamar Jackson signed jersey, but you got ties with Roquan, so why not?
Had ties with Roquan.
Oh, well,
Marlon is a great one. Marlon's a great one.
Marlo or the new underdog, or Darius Washington.
Darius. Look, let me just say this. I got some ideas. They got to advance first. Then you'll be hearing from me next week.
All right.
Appreciate you, brother. I'll catch up with you soon. Yep. Manny down there in Houston. I believe he's in Houston because I know his bedroom verbatim. I know exactly what his bedroom looks like. Pause. All right, guys. I appreciate you for being with me. I got a lot of packing to do. Got to get the house in order. And then me and B More around town are wheels up. And what I mean by wheels up, just they're hitting the road. I'm not flying up, but we're busting up. Really looking forward to this experience this weekend and taking all my travels on the road. Want to say thank you again for a fantastic week. I will literally be pregame live streaming all weekend long, so make sure you turn that notification bell on. Matter of fact, why don't I do this real quick? Just to give you guys an idea of what the itinerary looks like, why don't I just pull this up? And we'll look at it together so you can have an expectation. This is literally the Be More Around Town. Okay, so 7:30 in the morning from the White Marsh Park and Ride. That's where we'll be taking off from. We're staying in this sweet resort and casino in Niagara Falls. I've never done Niagara Falls, so I'm looking forward to that. Okay, we're gonna arrive at around 3 o'clock, check into the room and whatnot. And then in Chippewa. Is it Chippewa? Chippewa, I think. It's funny. As a native New Yorker, I don't even know how to pronounce this right here. Buffalo is literally a different state. Anyway, rec room from 7:30 to 10:30. So you can count on tomorrow night carving out a little bit of time for me, if you so choose, for pregame coverage, if you will. Probably somewhere in that 8 o'clock hour. That's my plan. So for those of you who are wanting to pop in virtually, or maybe you're going to be there, consider coming out. I would love to see you out there. And then aside from that, 2 to 5:30 on game day at Danny's South, which is actually in Orchard Park, right around the corner from the stadium, from 2 to 5:30. Within that range of time, I'll be live. So that's what you can expect. I'll be finishing up probably around 5 or 5:30, and then I got to race across town to get back in time for pregame coverage. Or to watch the game from the hotel. That's my plan. And then Monday we're heading back. And literally because we're leaving at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., I'm literally going to be doing the Ravens lunch hour live stream from a bus. From a bus. That's the plan. All right. That's what's going on. Appreciate you guys for being here. Lots to do before I walk out the door tomorrow morning. Thank you to Preston Automotive Group, and thank you in advance for a fantastic opportunity to give away this Kyle Hamilton signed football, which we will do coming up on Sunday night's post-game show. Like the video on your way out, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. You guys know the drill. Thanks for all the love. Catch up with you soon. Have a nice night, guys.